Hello, this is International Professional Communication, the focus on globally networked teams. We focus on language, culture, technology, and collaboration in these teams, and consider the challenges faced by same culture and multicultural teams. There's also a nice article about Swift Trust, building Swift Trust in global virtual teams, and so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Here's the overview for week 10 that's on the Canvas site. And you will notice, especially for this week, it is the first week that there is nothing listed from Varner and Beamer. Varner and Beamer do not address in detail globally networked teams, global virtual teams, and it is very important that we do so. You are part of one with your work with the student at the University of Trieste. But I have some other resources to indicate this as well. Now, interestingly, 7 years ago, on the source Changing Virtual Workforce Survey, almost a quarter said that 60% of their employees work in virtual teams. 40% indicated more than 40% of their employees work on virtual teams. But what about the global connection? A more recent study, this is from just last April, not quite a year ago, a great resource, the Culture Wizard. I would encourage you to go to this PDF and to skim through some of it. This is just from the executive summary and key findings. But what was interesting is this survey had nearly 1,400 respondents from 80 countries. So an incredible data set. And the findings, 85% of respondents work on virtual teams. Now granted, the businesses that they surveyed were engaged in global business activity. However, it's still remarkable. 63% work on 1 to 3 teams, nearly a quarter. 22% work on at least 4 virtual teams. 85% said that virtual teamwork is at least somewhat critical, and 31% said or 54% said extremely critical. So you can skim through these results. Now note down there 18% were aware that an intercultural misunderstanding has cost their team or company an opportunity. 73% report that the advantages of their virtual teams outweigh the challenges. Notice some of the biggest challenges: participation, pace, time, role expectations, follow through. So very similar to what I would guess each of you has experienced at some point. But 58% report that less than half of their team leaders were prepared to lead multicultural teams. I would encourage each of you to include a statement like prepared to lead a multicultural team on your resume as a result of working with the University of Trieste and as a result of taking this course. I would claim the knowledge and the preparation that you are receiving and be ready to talk about it. So you can rate yourself as effective to lead in this context. Now, I do not include this resource on our Canvas site. If you are listening to this video, I would ask you to please reference this study in your course forum comments, because then I will know that you have taken the time to use this video resource. Some conclusions also from this key resource. This is based on this survey, past surveys, and their ongoing work with virtual team global work. They say that these are the best practices: the need for a team charter, agenda, summary notes, trust, relationships, participation, language difficulties, offline discussion. So please take a little time with this resource. The ones that then I have included on our site, one is from Dr. Karen Gotch. She is the manager of global talent at Mosaic Company here in the Twin Cities. This was her dissertation. She is a graduate of our program. In her dissertation, she investigated here differences in communication that exist among native English speakers and non-native English speakers on global virtual teams, where English was the working language, the lingua franca. She looked specifically at language, culture, technology, and collaboration. Her findings emerged from interviews, one-on-one interviews with 21 native speakers and 29 non-native English speakers, professionals, and their memorable experiences. The resource that I include a link to from our Canvas site include many of the quotes from her work, and so I encourage you to discuss these in the course forum. When we have had face-to-face versions of this course, she has come and has presented. She's also very willing to serve in an interview capacity for the multinational corporation, that memo assignment. So please contact her if you are interested in visiting with her further. This slide just simply includes a more detailed abstract of her work. And in the course forum, with those direct quotes related to, the ones I've included relate to a couple of these areas, but I just use this slide as a way to focus in. So you may, I would encourage you to at least choose a couple of these in your comments. So you may decide I want to focus on technology and collaboration in my comments, or I may want to focus on just culture and language. That's up to you. But this way I just sort of highlight where those key sections are in her work. Let's continue here. This is a resource that it is very recent. It is this month. It just came out in the IEEE Transactions on Professional Communication resource. And so I include it because it is so timely. Effects of a dyad's cultural intelligence on global virtual collaboration. Well, each of you is part of a dyad with the University of Trieste. What is the impact of your cultural intelligence on your collaboration? So this study asks, does a dyad's cultural intelligence have an effect on collaboration, processes, and outcomes? And if it does, what are those effects? So please note their result that rigid approaches are ineffective in many situations. What are your approaches? How are you leveraging your cultural intelligence in your work with your University of Trieste partner? I would also encourage you to note the references in this study. My goodness, it's a huge list. It is what I call a gold mine for any of you who may study now or in the future more in depth on cultural intelligence. The other resources, Befar, Kern, and Brett, and their study of managing the challenges in a multicultural team. Now, they say, you know, their focus there and how do teams get past their differences in order to get work done. In this case, they interviewed 40 managers of multicultural teams. And you can see the groups there, not quite 50% American Canadian, and then Latin American, Asian, and European. And that was their first study. Second study were students enrolled in MBA programs, and you've got the detail there. What I'd like you to focus on are their discussion here of management challenges in same culture teams and then in different culture teams. You can see the what I have in the different colored print, the numbers 1 through 4 there in different culture teams. You might expect those, but notice numbers 5 through 9. Very important. Violations of respect, intergroup prejudice, lack of common ground, fluency, thought you had agreement. These are some of the tables to please spend some extra time with. Table 1A, multicultural team challenges not unique to multicultural teams and responses to those challenges. So the challenge, this direct versus indirect, and how you might respond. Norms for problem solving, possible responses, time, and then differences in work norms, that 1 through 4. Then notice table 1B, challenges unique to multicultural teams. So if there is a violation of respect and hierarchy, how might the team adapt? How might the manager intervene? Intergroup prejudices, challenges stemming from innate, pre-existing stigma, prejudices, judgments that spill over into the workplace. How might the team adapt? How might the manager need to intervene to create a very deliberate and structured process to get work done? What about challenges caused by negative reactions due to language issues, fluency? How might the team adapt? How might the manager intervene? I would encourage you to keep these tables handy for your future work in any workplace. A couple of other studies that I don't include on the Canvas site, but just to highlight very quickly. In this case, a study of global virtual teams, Madzetsky and Chidoba, and how they define global virtual teams. Use technology, work and live in different countries. They observed teams over 21 months. They found that, and I quote, effective global virtual teams fit their communication patterns to the task. They generate a deep rhythm of face-to-face communications interspersed among periods of remote communication. The importance of that Skype, that Google Hangout, whatever. But in this particular case, I mean, this was 2000, but it was like, sometimes I say it's like an accordion. You bring the group together and then it goes back out. You bring them close together and then it goes back out. Here's another study. Again, virtual teams, they're asking, can trust exist? How might trust be developed? What communication behaviors facilitate the development of trust? In this case, a large group of master's students from a large group of universities and a 6-week collaboration, students assigned to teams. So you might think, hey, that sounds a little familiar. We're just 2 universities, but it's about a 6-week collaboration. You were assigned to a team. What they found in terms of trust facilitating communication behaviors, specific actions, what to do early on, what to do later. Okay, so I hope that you have been communicating in a social communication and have communicated with enthusiasm. Now you are in the midpoint of your project, and it should be predictable. You should be having more substantial and timely responses. In terms of facilitating trust early on, again, coping with technical uncertainty, taking initiative. and then being positive, and and keep your cool in response to any crisis. Speaking of trust, I really appreciate this article by Crisp and Irvempa, Swift Trust in Global Virtual Teams. Now, I've listed their hypotheses there. You can see again they had a large number of teams, in this case an 8-week, and students were on 4 continents, and they worked on collaborative business plans. What I find most interesting in this, and please spend some time with Table 1, core constructs, items, and measurement. What normative actions, and then note what to do for development of early trust, swift trust. What types of statements indicate late trust? And the importance of developing swift trust for global virtual teams. Note their discussion and implications. They found a positive link between swift trust and team performance. It's not the communication per se that renders trusting beliefs resilient, but what actions are actually taken via that communication. It becomes critical in ad hoc virtual teams where there is not sufficient time to expend on relationship building. Trust is based on an early presumption that the team is trustworthy and verified through actions. It's verified through your action. Have you taken action to develop swift and ongoing trust with your University of Trieste partner? What guidance does this article provide you? And in terms of additional guidance, please explore a few of these sites. This last one takes you to a pretty nice article in the Harvard Business Review. The others are more various business and consulting agencies and their suggestions. For example, this particular post on leading virtual teams effectively, or some of these practical tips to improve virtual team relationships. Here's a blast from the past. I don't include this in your resources. It's a bit too dated. But back in 1995, actually, is when we conducted this study, and Ray Archie is from Australia. It was the University of Western Sydney. I went over and worked there for a while in 1995. And then he and I conducted this study where our students worked together across distance using what we had at the time, email and internet relay chat. We assigned students to the various pairs, and they worked together. It was so interesting because in some of the exchanges, the students here would say, well, you can tell where I live if you just watch the morning show. And there was like the assumption that the TV shows and the resources that the students in Sydney, Australia, would be similar to the ones we do. And of course, that's not the case. But I'm just saying that in the 21 years since, in some ways, we've come a long way in better understanding our world and collaboration as part of a globally networked team. In other ways, we still have challenges in understanding time and the different technologies that we use. But the importance of these types of experiences, such as that you are having with your partner at the University of Trieste. So I look forward to your course forum discussion. You should definitely be conducting the usability test. You need to have it written up by April 4th, April 5th. Complete your industry interview as well with a person or an employer manager from a multinational corporation. These are a copy of the instructions on the usability test that you have on the Canvas site. Here's just a little bit of information on the multinational corporation. And that a memo brief is just a few pages to document your conversation, the person that you interviewed. Again, the audience for that is our class. It's other members of our class, and you'll see some example documents as well. Thanks!